Well, good morning to you. It's a pleasure to see you here bright and early at whatever time it is on your computer. Come on in the back, I want to show you something. So I just lit up the furnace, and today what we're going to do is make a reticello pattern. We're going to do this out of those black canes that we pulled that 150 feet. Are we going to get there? Oh yeah, we definitely got it. We're in the sumac. We're in the sumac. This goblet I made, and it is a pattern where I overlay canes on top of one another. And if you do it properly, it'll produce a bubble in between every little crosshatch, every intersection of the canes. It actually creates a bubble. And so it's a really tricky, kind of complicated and fussy technique, but I love it. So we're gonna do that today, and I'm gonna turn that reticello into a goblet. I'm not exactly sure what kind of shape, whether it's gonna be kind of like a martini or flare it out, but we'll first get the reticello part. So come on with me. Let's blow some glass. In here, and the first thing I need to do is divide the different thicknesses. You know, for example, this cane certainly wouldn't work because it's so thin, and these two, because they're the same, they could go together, but they couldn't go with this fatter one. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of divide it so I have a nice even set of canes. This is called a pie divider, and essentially what it's doing is it's measuring this diameter and dividing it by 3.14 to tell me what this circle needs to be in order to roll that up into a tube. And so this is going to essentially become the bubble. So I'm just going to heat that up. I think the easiest way to make a collar is I essentially let it all drip off or to the back of the pipe, and I blow that bubble. I immediately go into the fire and I blow through. And what it does is it basically just blows and extends that blowpipe. And then I just marver it to the actual dimension of whatever that pie divider says. You can fool with it a little bit. Like that is definitely not something I want, so I need to get that bigger. So I'm just squeezing this a little bit more to try and extend it. And that's a lot closer. So I'll put this in here, let this stay hot. Every little thing is gonna be alright. And I could see some debris and dust from the shelf. If I'd have heated that on the shelf another probably 3 seconds, there would be all kinds of white stuff stuck here. And that's the brick breaking apart onto the glass. I close the end off with a little gap. There's multiple ways to do this, but what this is doing is essentially sealing our bubble already, and I won't have to cut that away. blowing fairly lightly. as I'm twisting. And now we've got a hole again. I'm not allowing the glass to get too hot or too cold. This is a relatively small cup, but it's perfectly fine for this process of what we're doing. Glove as a little paddle kind of shield. I knocked the pastorelli fork a couple times hard to begin to release those. If they began to stick, that little knock, that little break actually helps to kind of remove them. One more quick kind of spin around. So I'm twisting this set of canes the opposite direction so that when I blow that bubble into the cup, that the canes cross over one another. We are ready to blow this into the cup. Any dust from the shelf. It's a nice pattern. I see one little bubble that's out of place right there. You see that little guy? But, you know, still, even when things go really nice and smooth, there's still often, you know, these slight things that will be noticed if you really inspect the thing. So I just squeezed a lot of that glass off. I just really wanted a skim coat of clear on top of this. It just gives me a little more material to work with. You can see I'm tooling one area, but I'm grabbing another. You know, I don't want to grab too much on that one area because what it's going to end up doing is screwing up the pattern. Now you can begin to see a little more of that detail. So I'm blowing, I'm stretching, jacking, still stretching, cooling, blowing. This is going to be the foot. So this is the cup part. It's still moving, it's still hot, although I want to put an Avolio on it. This is going to be the connection point. If I push too much, too fast, which I might have done, it gets a little funky on us. Put a pretty big glue bit or avolio on this, so it can actually, the punty can be a little hotter than normal. You know, I'm not using this super duper delicate, but with the foot I will. This just helps to kind of thin it out, make it perfectly even on top. Before I puff it, I want to just kind of smooth that just a little bit. Otherwise, when I put the soffietta or the puffer onto it, it can expand all right in that upper section. And I just blew super hard, but it wasn't long burst. It was very quick. Again, I'm trying to turn both directions very even. If I turn one direction too much, it's going to twist up the top pattern. So I'm actually just going to heat that up a little bit, that connection, and I'll cut it a little tighter so that it pops off a little easier and I'm not knocking too hard. Sometimes you pull it out and it looks like that, you know, it's like it got too hot. So I actually do this twice. Push just right. The punty, you'll see that. So this can be a touch hot because I'm going to cut it down. Going to begin to kind of crease that. Probably about cold enough. I give it a little knock. I want these tweezers have to be hot because when I grab this in a second to reapply the punty, the tweezers will break it. So I'm kind of heating the punty and the tweezers at the same time. And you don't have much time to do this. You need to do it fast. So I give it a few flashes to kind of freeze that punty up. I'm going to put it up straight up and down. I want to straighten up that little connection. don't want to get it too hot. I want to get it hot enough so that I can flash that putty. I'm going to come here. I'm going to stick it. And I'm holding on to the pipe because I'm about to touch the cup with these tweezers, and I don't want that to shock it. So now I can pull that up just a little bit. Begin to shape the stem. If you do this too fast, that'll expand too fast, and that's going to be a problem. You know, it's still moving quite a bit, so I'm just slowly kind of lifting it. And I'm paying real close attention to not knock this pipe, although it's still moving significantly. I'll try to give it one more flash, kind of even it up in the temperature. It's still moving, but it's hardening really fast. And it's not super even in temperature. So I want to get it in this box so that this box can turn it into even in temperature. So that went pretty good, actually. Let's do it again. We had a great day making some goblets. I had so much excitement from making those goblets that yesterday I made some more. This was the initial one that I made. It came out really lovely. Bubbles are perfect. This one, I started doing a little bit of experimentation and it ended up breaking on us, so, all right, where were we? What I ended up doing was I ended up making another one. I wanted it to go along, and in the process of making another one, I made two, one of which I pulled out of the annealing oven, and one of which didn't make it quite to the annealing oven. And I just show you all these pieces. I left that out to kind of give you an example. Like even when you get a piece almost the entire way, sometimes they still end up breaking. And this one, it's crooked, slightly crooked, so I'm gonna end up cutting that apart as well. So, you know, for every piece you end up seeing, there's at least one that had to be made prior that probably doesn't make it either to a photograph or to a gallery or to a collector. It's a little deeper. It was clean. It was kind of clean. And you know what's interesting about this? We started the cane series off with that burn on my hand, and we finished it with the blood on my hand. It's all good. Let's cut these apart. We'll cut that off. And what I actually decided to do is we're gonna use this for the next piece. So let's get going.